and removal proceedings, very aggressive tests taken by the Immigration Service. At one time, put in a tether and telling her that she has to report every week as if she is a hardened criminal. There's many questions the family has. As the panelists here have said, and as the coalition here has said, there are many questions from the community, there are many questions from the family. One, why was a dog used when there is a clear indication that a dog, as to the Muslim community, may not be the safest and healthiest of means, and which they think is not a clean animal. When you put a dog in front of an imam, immediately you create an environment for hostile and activity at that particular moment. That's one. Second, the timing of this raid. Why did they enter when the prayer was happening? Third, the withholding of the autopsy. It's a grave concern. It just puts more suspicion as to the government's activity in this particular case. 21 shots. This enraged the community. It still enrages the family as to why did they have to gun them down 21 times. And what's even really a suspect, we feel, is that these lacerations were all over his hand. The autopsy report, for some reason, the experts cannot tell us what these lacerations are for. We're very concerned about that. As the family attorney, I plan on taking a different autopsy myself and making sure we want to know what these lacerations are. We want to know the direction of the shootings and the bullets that protruded through the imam's body. You have numerous lacerations on his head, on his hands, inside his hands. To me, it's as if he's shielding off a particular animal, a dog. And when the dog keeps attacking you and you're trying to, defend for your life, common sense dictates that you may pull out your gun and try to shoot the dog. We don't know. These are just, these are suspicions, but there are so many questions in this particular case. And the city of Dearborn does nothing but agitate those suspicions when they don't release the autopsy report. When they don't release it to the family, the community has a right to know, our congressman definitely has a right to know, and so does absolutely the family have the right to know how their loved one was slain. So we're calling upon, the city of Dearborn to immediately release those charges. The family is, and fact is, we're calling upon that there should be, if there was a rogue agent out there that took action into his own hands, regardless of what the case is, to bring a prosecution against a particular individual, whether it be through Kim Worthy's office or the State Attorney General's office. Thank you.
I'm going to make one more statement, and then we'll throw it open for questions from all of our coalition participants at this point. Abiomi, could you come over here for a second? This is Mr. Ezekwe. He's with our Coalition Against Police Brutality, also with McCowie. From the beginning of this, there were demonstrations that were held to call attention to the fact that we see this as a reflection of increasing connection on a multi-jurisdictional level. Congressman made mention to that in terms of state violence. The circumstances are that money from the Justice Department actually has been given to local law enforcement agencies to create multi-jurisdictional task force and joint terrorism task forces. And that's why for 2 years they were trying to find a basis to proceed in this case. So what we're asking, in addition to what's been said here today, is that the Judiciary Committee and that the Justice Department look into the grants that were given to these entities that is essentially compromising every law enforcement entity and turning them into essentially what amounts to a national police force that is in effect engaging in attacks. So within that context, that's one of the things that we see as most significant in this case. And that's why, once again, why it's so important that the Congressman is doing what he's doing, because if Ron Haddad in Dearborn and if Warren Evans in Detroit are getting money specifically to create a basis for these kind of cases, and even the FBI, then the question is are they doing it because they need to establish something? In 2 years, they had not established a case. These initially were thought to be terrorist cases, and now it turns out that they're criminal at best. And so within that context, this is an attack really on all American citizens. I just want to say to all of you who are gathered here today, if they're talking about Muslims today, they're talking about Catholics tomorrow and Baptists next week, and they're talking about all of us. So essentially, simply because Muslims have been killed, this should be a time to come together And we should not see this as an isolated incident. This is just not one man in a poor black neighborhood. This is all people who are affected by this, initially Muslims from across the world. And you will remember, and soon we may do something in relationship to that, that a little over 40 years ago there was a black church shot up in Detroit by police, New Bethel Baptist. And this reminds me of that at this particular point. So we want to know what's happening with the monies that we as citizens spend, essentially for creation of our own problems in terms of our own safety. I'll throw it open to you and to anyone else. Let me just ask if anyone else in the back wants to say anything. Mike, you want to have it? Sure. Go ahead. Mike Steinberg from the ACLU. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Michael J. Steinberg. I'm the legal director for the American Civil Liberties Union of Michigan. The ACLU completely supports a full and impartial investigation of what on its face appears to be extreme abuse power. We're concerned particularly about three aspects of what you've been hearing about. Number one, the use of government spies to go into religious institutions and its impact on religious freedom in this country. Number two, we're concerned about the apparent abuse of power and use of excessive force in the death of the Imam. And number three, we're concerned about the suppression of the autopsy report. We hope that Attorney General Holder will conduct a transparent investigation, and if there is a finding of abuse of power, that he will take all appropriate corrective measures to ensure that our civil liberties are not violated again. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Short statement and then we'll go.
Carrie from National Action.
Carrie, go ahead. Just stand right there above the congressman.
I'm Carrie Easton on behalf of the National Action Network, founded by Reverend Al Sharpton. We are definitely asking for a full investigation. We support all of the efforts to make sure that an investigation is taking place properly. We also want to call attention to all the community leaders and pastors in our community. This could be you, okay? You could be targeted by a source that is unbelievable in the community that's taking a lot of people out every single day. So we're asking you to support what's going on here and not just look at this as a Muslim issue. This is not a Muslim issue. This is an issue for human beings. This could be any one of us targeted today. Any one of us today could leave out of here today and be targeted by an irrational investigation and be targeted and killed any moment. So we need to let people know that we will not stand for this and that an investigation must be taking place, and we want everything to be revealed.
Anyone else? Okay.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Good morning, my name is Chuck Warpahusky. I'm co-director of the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. And we see this not only as a Muslim issue, not only as an issue for the African American community, but an issue that concerns all people of faith. For all of our differences across faith lines, we have a lot in common. And unfortunately, one thing many of our faith traditions have in common is a history of being persecuted for our religious beliefs. Today we see concerns about inappropriate targeting of Muslim Americans, surveillance, and infiltration. In my own faith community, Quakers, during the early days of the nation, Quakers were killed in the Massachusetts colony for practicing and spreading their beliefs. Baptists fled religious persecution. We all know the situation that Jews across the world have faced. Religious persecution is something that all of us share in our religious traditions. And at our best, it calls us to be concerned when we see others who may be being targeted for their own religious practices or beliefs. That's why we support the call for a full investigation. We thank Congressman Conyers for his work on this, and we look forward to seeing a full and complete and fair investigation to this incident.
Okay, Imam.
I'm Imam Abdullah El-Amin from the Muslim Center in Detroit, and I, too, just like my brother, am here to support truth, justice, and fairness, and honesty in all of our dealings. I'm here to support the Imam's wife who the Imam was a very good friend of mine. And I knew him as a great humanitarian, a person that worked tirelessly in the community to help feed the poor, even though members of his community was poor. That spread goodness and words of the religion around in the community. So we want to see justice and truth come out so that it will stop and maybe prevent these things from happening in the future.
And we want to say that Imam El-Amin, in another responsibility, handled the funeral and handled the body preparation of the body for this. So he has seen some of the more gory details of this, more so than any